Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is, of course, Mike with Nibiru News and Someone'sBones.com. Today, I have something very special, something that has been asked for. I have an audio, and at least here a part, a video interview with one of my key sources, one of my key Russian sources, former KGB agent Strelnikov Isaac Stepanovich. How are you doing today, Strelnikov?
All right. It's okay, but I would prefer to call me, it's all right. Strelnikov's fine.
Strelnikov is good. Okay. I mean, if you want me to call you Agent Stepanovich or former Agent Stepanovich or Mr. Stepanovich, I'm comfortable with whatever form of address you prefer.
Yes, I prefer Strelnikov, please.
Okay. Are you comfortable with doing the video, or would you rather not do the video interview?
I would rather not. I mean, no problem, but I prefer to talk.
Okay, no problem. I'd be happy to shut the video. Not a problem. And go ahead and kill that camera, and we can do without that.
Thank you.
Okay, let me get rid of you here. Let me just, I'll just shrink it down so tiny that nobody could possibly see it. And I have no need to have myself up there either in that case, since everybody already has a pretty good idea what I look like by now. Anyway, it is a pleasure to have you on today, Mr. Stepanovich. First, I'd like to thank you for agreeing to do an audio interview, a part video, I guess. The listening audience knows that I've written countless articles based on information you've provided exclusively to me. I know you are a wealth of knowledge, but today I'd like to focus on a single topic: Vladimir Putin's war against an extraterrestrial race called the Anunnaki. Before we get there, though, would you be willing to give us a little of your backstory, your education, work history, and your relationship to Vladimir Putin?
Yes, Mike, but please, I don't like all this Mr. This and Mr. That. Just call me Strelnikov. In Russia, we very much informal, we sit around, drink vodka, sing songs, and tell jokes. I listened to your other interviews with two scientists who are, how you say, anal retentive, right? Demanding you to address them as doctor.
Yeah.
Just cynical, and I would like it to be like that in the future.
Okay, not a problem. Like I said, I will be happy to call you any name you find acceptable.
Right.
And no problem. We like to keep things informal here on Someone's Bones and Nibiru News. So, go ahead. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
All right. Let me think where to start. After high school, I conscripted to Russian military. My VUS, this is sort of Russian equivalent to United States Army, MOS. I was like an intelligence scout. I became very fascinated with gathering information and espionage. When I leave Army, I go to KGB, but they turn me down.
I see. Turned you down?
Yes, they did. They said I had good military service, but they were recruiting only two types of people: those with college degree and a few for suicide missions. Agent told me if they recruit me, then I would be sent to a mission and probably not come home. So I went to college.
Probably a wise choice given the opportunities you had at the time. What did you study in school?
I graduated from St. Petersburg State University with master's degree in political science, focusing on strategic arms and control studies. When I graduated, I got back to KGB and say, here's my military record, here's my diploma, give me a job. So they checked me out and they said, okay, maybe. I passed all assessment tests and training regimen and was introduced into KGB. And then I worked as junior analyst in Moscow. I hoped for excitement, but job was very, very boring desk job. Tedious, About 1 year later, I catch a lucky break. I personally exposed an MI6 and a Mossad agent who had infiltrated into the Ministry of Defense. So they sent me to London as an assistant to the military attaché. Very, very nice ladies in London. You know?
Sure.
And after that, the people up chain of command take notice of my achievement and promoted me to KGSID, this Special Investigation Division. And this is where I began to learn the things really going on in this world, like Nibiru and Anunnaki, you know?
Before we go there, it's my understanding that you were terminated from the KGB and did not leave of your own free will. Would you care to elaborate on that?
It was a termination. It was not really a termination. No one ever really leaves the KGB. I was relieved of duty because I had learned so much that I was more, useful outside than inside of agency. The way I see it, President Putin wanted me to expose the truths to the world. As an active KGB agent, I could never do that. But officially, free of the agency's grasp, I could disclose sensitive information. It should be obvious that President Putin is protecting me.
It would certainly seem so. So just to clarify, President Putin, you believe, is using you as an instrument of disclosure. Why would he not just do it himself?
Mike, he cannot present certain issues because he has many enemies. Some topics are too controversial. The fifth column in government and outside world would say that he's like on a wild goose chase in the near abroad, or Syria. In Syria, they would say that we are in Syria not to eliminate the terrorist threat, but to pursue some imaginary enemies from space. No? Then the Washington Post would say that President Putin has caught some contagious mental illness or disease when President Trump sneezed. Then Moscow Times and the other Russian pro-NATO liberal papers would all scream out, "It's a contagion. Putin has gone mad like Trump."
The fifth column, could you give us a little more information?
Look, some hopeful politicians and journalists and businessmen also are working for the West and would not miss the opportunity. President popularity is great, but his enemies are just waiting for their chance to get him. I'm not the only one. President Putin is using others like me. He wants to disclose information he cannot.
Information like what your government calls the Anunnaki threat?
Among other things, yes.
Let's focus there for a second. To start, can you tell us when your government learned of this race and give us a little background on how Putin determined that they were, shall we say, not very friendly?
Sometimes in late 2012, and I cannot remember the exact date, we began receiving intelligence reports of extraterrestrials in conflict areas like Syria, Afghanistan, Georgia, Ukraine. Many reports surface of extraordinarily tall humanoids, 3 to 5 meters. I'm sure you've heard of the Kandahar giant. That's just one of many. What we learn is that this race of evil ETs will seek out hotspots, places of conflict where they can camouflage themselves within the carnage of war. So they appear at battle sites and take corpses of dead and sometimes abduct the living. These stories go unreported because it is easy to explain as battle-induced acute stress and hallucinations.
How convenient. If these events, however, have happened beyond Russia's sovereign borders, in Syria and other nations, why does Putin care?
Because unlike Western leaders, President Putin recognizes this vermin are a great threat to humanity. If we do not fight them in Syria, we will have to fight them in Stalingrad.
Stalingrad? I thought Stalin was not to be mentioned in the new Russia under President Putin.
I was in Paris and they have Stalingrad metro station. So you Westerners think that you can have Stalingrad and us Russians cannot have Stalingrad. That's nonsense.
Okay, well, thank you for clarifying that. And I would never presume to demand political correctness from Russians when I hate it here in America. Anyway, these Anunnaki, what is their disposition? How strong are they?
Unfortunately, it is hard to track exactly how many Anunnaki are currently in this area. In the kill one, many more seem to appear.
Okay, now that we're getting into your nation's efforts to eradicate the Anunnaki, can you tell us how exactly Putin plans to defeat a technologically and potentially numerically superior foe?
Some things I can say, some I cannot. Yeah. Early on, we discovered that Anunnaki were resilient to small arms fire, like Kalashnikov bullets. Yeah. Usually did not work on them. President Putin, I would say, he gave a secret executive order to organize nationwide effort to defeat this monster. Military base in Ural. You know Ural Mountains?
Right.
It was repurposed as a top secret ET, like extraterrestrial research center, to train Russian special services and to develop technology capable of reducing these Anunnaki.
I see. I presume you're referring to the Moskoya facility, and I'd like to return to that in a minute. Can you tell me about Russia's earliest skirmishes with the Anunnaki and the outcome of those engagements?
At first, outcome was bad, very bad. We did not know their defense technologies. We received reports. We sent Spetsnaz to chase them through vast networks of caves in Syria. We lost many combats there. Our bullets often bounce out of them, you know. And they slaughter our soldiers like pigs in mud. They have plasma-based weapons and also use energy spears to skewer our fighting brothers. We lost maybe 200 men before finding a place in their armor where we can shoot them.
A tragic loss of Russia's fighting men. How did your nation discover a weakness in the Anunnaki?
Yeah, that's during an engagement. One Anunnaki mistakenly wounded another, and our Russian survivors of this battle captured the wounded beast and took it to Medjugorje. Our top scientists tried to interrogate it, but no luck. We could not understand their language. They speak in chirps and shirts, so if it could understand us, it never let us know. Since interrogation not possible, we do next best things, science. So we exposed the Anunnaki to extreme heat, extreme cold, acid, even Novichok poison. Nothing worked. Finally, after many months, we discovered two weaknesses. Acoustic weapons of certain frequencies cause Anunnaki much pain and make them fall to the ground. Also, they can be killed by energy-based weapon like a laser, a 10 kilowatt laser, powerful enough to vapor a single Anunnaki. And this happened. That test subject died. Unfortunately, these weapons right now are large and must be vehicle-mounted. We are training troops with handheld versions, but right now these are only strong enough to stun the smaller Anunnaki, but certainly not all.
Fascinating. Do you know how many encounters have Russian special services had with the Anunnaki?
Yes. 7 that I'm aware of. This does not count the recent bombings of Anunnaki enclaves in Syria.
You say bombings. Bombs, in my mind, are considered conventional weapons.
Yes. Special ordnance developed by Ministry of Defense. I do know technical schematics, but in addition to explosion, like the weapons release energy pulse on detonation that damages Anunnaki brains.
Well, if that being said, and if that's true, then Putin should have no problem wiping all the existing Anunnaki off the face of the planet.
If only it was so easy. Anunnaki have a unique form of transportation. They use portals which only they can see. They teleport instantaneously from one location to another. If they see the attack coming, they can strike back, and this has happened, or they can vanish through a portal and reappear somewhere else, maybe thousands of miles away. We speculate that the portals of fixed location instead installed by the Anunnaki in previous years, and we have no idea how many of these portals are on the planet. Could be millions for all we know, maybe even back to their homeworld.
And based on what you know, where is that?
Russian intelligence believes the Anunnaki are natives of the 5th and 7th planet of Nibiru system.
How did Putin or whomever with the Ministry of Defense come by that information?
Because they told us so.
Some clarification is needed here, Strelnikov. Earlier, a few minutes ago, you said communication with the Anunnaki was impossible. That being so, how was this information delivered?
Yes, in that statement I referred only to the captured one, the captured Anunnaki, who would not or could not communicate. But like I said, we had many engagements with these evil creatures. Some times ago, after we killed nearly 200 of them in a fight, an Anunnaki emissary reached out to President Putin and offered him an ultimatum. This time he spoke perfect Russian.
Where did this contact happen?
It materialized near Ministry of Defense headquarters and demanded to speak with Putin. Very tall, 4 meters, translucent skin, phasing in and out of existence. Mike, I'm out of time for this today, for this talk.
No problem, Strelnikov. You do not know how grateful I am to you for sharing with us this incredibly important story. I hope that you will agree to chat with me again, as there's certainly a lot more information about the Anunnaki to cover, and yes. I would like to conclude with that topic before we dive into other topics.
All right, Mike. I will be in touch with you.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Strelnikov. You have a good afternoon.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is, of course, Michael with Nibiru News and Someone'sBones.com. Approximately 1 month ago, I did an interview with former KGB agent Strelnikov Isaac Stepanovich discussing Russia's interactions with a hostile race of extraterrestrials known as the Anunnaki, and we began to talk about Putin's desire to rid the world, or at least his area of influence, of this alien pestilence. I said I would have a second, it goes nasty upstairs, a second interview, and today I am fortunate enough to have Strelnikov Isaac Stepanovich back with us, and I know we'll have a good conversation. Hello, Strelnikov. It's a pleasure to speak with you again.
My pleasure, Mike. I am happy to have the opportunity to share information with your listening audience.
Thank you very much, and they appreciate you too, Strelnikov. Before we get started, I just want to do a brief recap of our last conversation. If anyone out there did not listen to the first interview I did with Strelnikov, I'm going to put the link in the description box below. Strelnikov, when we last spoke, you provided some truly shocking information on the Anunnaki. You said Russia has known of them for many years, that Russian forces have had skirmishes with them, and after some time, Russia did develop weapons that could either kill or wound Anunnaki. At the closing of our last conversation, you said an Anunnaki emissary approached President Putin with an ultimatum. I'd like to start right at that point. Do you remember what was the ultimatum?
Yes, Mike. Like I said, this villainous race has ability to instantaneously transport from one location to another via a nexus of portals that only they can see. Anunnaki appeared near the MOD and demanded to speak with President Putin. I am foggy on some details, but what I know is this. Arrangements were made between Putin and Anunnaki to meet at Putin's mansion on the Black Sea coast near the village of Paraskovivka. At this meeting, the Anunnaki delivered the ultimatum. Leave us alone, we'll leave you alone, or else perish with the rest of the world.
Wow. So what you're essentially saying is that the Anunnaki offered Putin peace in exchange for, shall we say, agreeing to participate in a non-intervention agreement?
Something like that, but it's much more shocking. The Anunnaki told him that in exchange for not interfering with their plans, they would leave Russia alone and not even set foot on Russian soil without explicit permission. The Anunnaki also said they would tell Putin how to survive Nibiru passing through the solar system. On the other hand, if Putin refused to offer the Anunnaki said Russia would be the first to fall and its people would be enslaved and taken as food.
Holy smokes. Assuming that to be true, it's hard to imagine why Putin declined such an, being facetious, a generous offer. Wow. Why would Putin deny that?
Because Mike Putin does not trust them. He may be an optimist, but he is not stupid. He figured that the Anunnaki would dishonor any agreement. These creatures are devilish and manipulative. So Putin told them to go away. We do not want you here. He told, leave the planet and never come back. You know what the Anunnaki told him?
No, but I'm hoping you'll tell me.
The Anunnaki said to Putin, Earth is our planet, not yours. We are the ones who seeded the Earth with strands of life. He said that they grew all life on Earth. As in a giant petri dish. Humans, the Anunnaki said, belong to them, just as your mother's chicken belonged to her.
Wow.
So every 3,600 years, give or take, they return to harvest.
Harvest what?
Us. We are little more than food and slave labor for them.
Oh. Theological repercussions aside, that is a frightening thought to comprehend. How did the Anunnaki respond to Putin's answer?
The Anunnaki said, you've been warned, and left.
And yet, no massive Anunnaki force has invaded Russia.
At least not yet.
One thing I really don't understand. If the Anunnaki have the ability to instantly travel anywhere they want using these portals, I mean, why haven't they just sent a brigade of soldiers into Moscow? If the Anunnaki who wanted to speak to Putin showed up at the MOD, obviously they must have these portals in Russia already.
For every answer we know, there are two we do not. It is possible the gates can accommodate only a certain number of Anunnaki before needing a recharge. We just don't have all the answers, but keep in mind that Anunnaki do not just attack military, they work behind the scenes. Evil machinations with human beings corrupted by Anunnaki's sinister agendas. If they can infiltrate government positions and influence law, they need not show up with guns blazing.
Fascinating. Does Putin believe right now, does he think that the Anunnaki have infiltrated the Russian government?
No. But he believes other nations have been compromised.
What nations, for instance?
For instance, yours.
Putin believes the Anunnaki have infiltrated the White House?
Not sure about now, but under Obama administration, many Anunnaki roamed the White House corridors. I really don't have more information on that.
Well, interestingly enough, you're not the first person to make such a suggestion. I haven't heard about the Anunnaki infiltrating the White House, or others that talked about another race called the Reptilians, but we're not going to go there right now. Let's step in a different direction. According to you, Russian forces have clashed at least 6 times with the Anunnaki, resulting in many deaths on both sides. Where is the photographic or video evidence of the engagements? People like me and others who report on this topic, we take huge hits to our credibility because we don't have that hard evidence. I'm sure it must exist in an era where Big Brother watches everything, where soldiers have body cameras. So there should be footage or pictures of these Anunnaki or Anunnaki corpses. What do you say to that?
Yes, Mike, I realize this is a big problem. Any footage is classified at the moment at most secret level. Even I have not seen it. Does it exist? Probably yes. Keep in mind that lack of thereof also affects my credibility. Yeah,
I can see that.
I spare what I can. As to corpses of Anunnaki, there are none. The Anunnaki biology is most strange. Their insides contain a corrosive bile that at the time of death literally dissolves both endo and exoskeleton. Only skulls have been known to survive this process, and photographs of Anunnaki had bones on the internet.
All right. And I have seen photos on the internet that, of elongated skulls that many say are Anunnaki. But digressing, I've known you for many years, and I absolutely believe that you're given the best possible information to which you've been exposed. However, as a journalist, I have to question everything. You've mentioned Anunnaki use plasma-based weapons and energy spears, and that their bodies liquefy at time of death. Now, these are conventions of 2 popular American science fiction franchises, specifically the Predator and Alien series, respectively. It seems a bit convenient that the Anunnaki lore mimics these fictional inventions. What do you think?
Michael, the margin or level of separation between fiction and reality is very narrow. I have never seen these movies. I've heard about them, but I've never seen them. I do not like movies. But the technologies used by the Anunnaki are real and are deadly. Ministry of Defense worked tirelessly to understand their technology and find a way to counter it.
Thank you. You previously said, to your knowledge, other nations do not take the Anunnaki threat as seriously as does Putin, or if at all. Now, it has been suggested to me that Trump and Putin are in a secret alliance to defeat them, and that all the current rabid anti-Russian sentiment going on right now is a dog and pony show to distract people from that, from Trump and Putin actually working together. What do you say about that?
Look, Michael, I wish this to be true. I wish your American president would take this threat and as seriously as does President Putin. I have seen no evidence showing cooperation between them.
All right.
If they're working together, Michael, then the rouse is so elaborate that even President Putin doesn't know he's working with Trump to fight Anunnakis.
Okay, so you're saying it's not true?
That's what I said.
Yeah. Do you think Putin stands a chance of winning this war on his own?
I think, I don't know. What I think doesn't matter, Mike.
Okay, then that's a no?
I didn't say that. Please don't put words in my mouth.
All right, fair enough. I want to make sure we get you accurately. Let's veer in a different direction. When it comes to the Anunnaki, they've been described looking in various different forms and configurations. Giants, 7 to 15 feet tall, tan skin, translucent skin. Some even say they shimmer in and out of existence, kind of almost incorporeal. Some say bipedal. I've heard reports of there being quadruped Anunnaki. Does your government have any idea why why these reports vary so widely?
Yes, Mike. The Anunnaki breed with other races, and not just humans. The offspring are hybrid monsters inheriting traits from the male Anunnaki and the female of whatever species it impregnates. This accounts for the discrepancies. So, look, make no mistake, the Anunnaki genes are the dominant ones, and even half-breeds are deadly and dangerous and as much a threat to Earth as a full-blooded Anunnaki.
Wow. So the Anunnaki males are breeding with females of other species. I assume the females are not willing participants.
Correct. They are victims of the Anunnaki genetic experimentation process.
Do you have you learned from your government how many races the Anunnaki might have mingled with? I know it's a question out there.
This I do not know, but more than just humans.
All right.
Look, I have to go now, Mike. I have emergency. We'll talk soon again.
All right. Well, Strelnikov, I very much appreciate your time that you take to come on and provide this information to myself and to the audience out there. Do me a favor, please. Shoot me an email when you have time to talk again. I do want to continue to close out our conversations on the Anunnaki and then dive into some other topics that I know you can help shed light on. Thanks very much, Strelnikov.
You're welcome.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.